3 years after the surprisingly well-received second season, which was 3 years after the absolute cluster of a first season, the unhinged, unbridled king of cringe isekai makes its valiant return to its throne atop Trash Mountain, only to immediately fall to the bottom and break both of its legs on impact. Hello and welcome back to Binging Last Season, where this week I am going to use Arifureta to bait you into watching a better show, but don't worry, we're going to talk about both of them. And we're starting with Arifureta. Now, I'm going to share a few small spoilers from Season 3, but don't worry, because unlike a shot at the doctor's office, if you know it's coming, it'll actually hurt less. And like a shot at the doctor's office, it fucking sucks! Every time I rewatch Season 1 of Arifureta, I find new things to hate about it. I can't believe how bad it is. I'm always awestruck, and yet I can't drop the score lower than an 8 because I love it so much. It is unbelievably and undeniably cringe, but it's so much fun. And I don't remember most of Season 2, but I gave it an 8, so I must have thought it was good enough to rewatch. And then Season 3 gives us DEI Nagumo. The woke mind virus has taken over Japan. Burn it down! That palette swap is one of many cool things that happens in Season 3 of Arifureta because it hasn't forgotten what it is. It is cool, and it doesn't care how cringe it is trying to be cool. It reunites us with the Howlia tribe that horny blue-haired bunny girl senpai hails from, except now they're all murder hobos that go by pseudonyms like Death Ears McJackrabbit, and they get their moment in the sun that left me more satisfied than your mom after a 2-hour session with a man known only as the Meat Hammer. After which we spend a whole episode racking up entries for the Who the Fuck Was That Character Hall of Fame before our main group heads back into the labyrinths for the rest of the season, in which the show promptly goes to shit. And look, I'm not going to say that nothing cool happens for the rest of the season. It obviously does. We're talking about Arifureta. That is their one goal. The problem is that for the rest of the season, any attempt or thought towards the writing and story process is just gone. I mean, Nagumo will just walk up to a tree in the labyrinth and say, oh yeah, Mr. Potato Head said that we need to walk up to this tree and slap it with our butt cheeks and say the magic word and we can continue through the labyrinth. And I'm just like, when the fuck did Mr. Potato Head show up? Who is that? I have no idea who you're talking about. You're just making up names at this point and pretending that there's like context from some prior point in the series. This name has never come up before. I have no idea what is happening. There are things that were left out of the adaptation that make it make absolutely no sense to somebody without the context or like a perfect memory. Because apparently things happened in Season 2 that caused my mind to completely go blank. Just wipe from like fucking ground zero. I'm not a person. I'm a blank slate. Based on Season 2 of Arifureta. Maybe this name comes from Season 2, and I just didn't remember it because I didn't try hard enough. I don't know. But despite being a jumbled and confused mess, I plowed through to the back half of the season just to get, I shit you not, 4 episodes in a row of emotional breakthrough with the same exact format. You gotta be smarter than this. A little side note I wanted to mention, this is the part where they all fight themselves but black, and my secondary issue with this section is that they never show this guy. The guy with slightly darker skin in the group, we don't get to see his palette swap. Why don't we get to see his palette swap, Japan? The surprise factor from these fights wears off after the first one, and it gets really annoying by the third one. There's not a lot of these that were that interesting to watch, and I know, seemingly, they just want to show off all of their characters fighting clones of themselves, and maybe they want to talk about specific stuff during those fights, and like, talk about emotional breakthroughs, and like, this like, emotionally impactful moment. But like, how many of those in a row can I take before I'm just like, ugh, we get it. Like, you're coming to terms. Ugh, cool. Let's move on. And if the story moments aren't hitting, the fights definitely aren't. Arifureta has never been about having really cool and awesome fights. It's always been dependent on what's going on in the story. The story is what's supposed to give their fights impact. Just showing a fight between two characters or a character and a clone of themselves is not good enough. You need to back it up with something. And when you're just beating the same formula over and over again, it was an absolute slog to get through. And if you absolutely needed 16 episodes in this season, a better option was staring you right in the face. Earlier in the season, there is a dream sequence episode. Essentially a dream world where a main character is shown like their essentially perfect fantasy world, and only that character's fantasy world is shown. You could have shown everybody's, or at least pieces of them. You didn't have to spend so much time on it, but it was a better use of your time and would have been more interesting to watch, in my opinion. Now, you don't need to go full Naruto Shippuden and take like 20 episodes to do everyone's dream world, but you could have spent a little bit more time there and not spent so much time beating the absolute piss out of this one concept for fights to the point that by the time I'm getting to the climax of the season, I'm just checked out. And lastly, for the story sins, and no, we're not done, the harem aspect in season 3 is done the worst by far of like any season. I don't care if it's a character that like I personally think is best girl, I'll be honest with you guys, but I don't care about that. I don't care about like, well, I wanted her to be in the harem. Like, it's just so incredibly poorly written to the point that it's actually getting frustrating. Now I'm sitting there watching it and they're just like, oh, like, congratulations and welcome to the harem. And like, now we both want to fuck the same dude and thank goodness for us. And neither of us are going to because he's constantly fucking the vampire lolly. So we don't have a chance, but we can be despondent together. Yay. It's like you carefully and meticulously crafted a cocktail to perfection. And then for that final moment, the garnish, you just slammed an orange down into the glass, shattering it everywhere, and you said, I am bartender. It's not good. In fact, it's really bad, and that sucks because Tio is finally getting some respect for her threat level. Like, she's actually a real character now and not just exclusively a pervert, which I appreciated. There's a lot of things in season 3 that I did appreciate, but overall, it was bad. It suffered the most because of the story, so I gave it a 5 out of 10, which is like crazy because again, season 1 and 2, I gave 8s. Season 3, it was a 5. The storytelling and just the way that it was directed was just so incredibly bad. Like, it was, you can't have me be so confused for so much of the runtime and then make so many bad decisions and me to just sit there and say like, oh, but it's cool. It's cringe, but it's cool. It's cool cringe. Listen. If you don't like Arifureta, I don't know what you're doing here. But it's cool in a cringe way. It's fun, but God, there were way too many sins this season to overlook, and that's including, CGI Dragon from season 1. I overlooked that, so this season was rough. And if you want to watch something actually good this week, go watch Mao 2099. I cannot say enough good things about this anime, so I'll try to keep it brief. The music is phenomenal, both the background music in the show and the outro. Anytime Chill Step is involved, my ears perk up. Don't let appearances fool you. I know this is set in a dystopian future, but this is at its heart a fantasy anime, which is my jam, and it's not actually about a guy trying to be a streamer. I know it says that it's an aspect, but it's not going to take up the majority of the time. That being said, this shit-eating Neolithic androgynous sex demon is absolutely amazing as a character. I would watch him if he streamed. And as a renowned hater of future settings, this world is absolute Kino, dude. It's just every backdrop, every monolithic building on these, electric city streets. And then you compare that to just like the wasteland around them. Maybe all it took for me to like a future settings, I can speak, was literally just mashing it together with a fantasy world in certain ways. I mean, don't get me wrong. The electric vibe definitely takes over in terms of the background imagery, but God, this world's awesome. And that's it for this week. If I want to finish all of fall 2024 by next week, I'm going to have to go watch about 17-ish anime. So I'm going to get started right now with Isekai Nanbiri no Ka. Bye.